Hey, we have a mini Q&A video today. I had someone reach out to me. It's actually a viewer all the way over in Serbia, if you can believe that.
Zdravo.
So yes, there were a few questions. You're building a group of people. There's a Discord server. We'll put a link down in the doobly-doo if you're in Eastern Europe. Apparently, physical security is not a huge community over there, but maybe we can change that. So yeah, tell me who we've got and what are we laying down here?
So these questions come from NoMan29 from Serbia, who wrote to Deviant and who has also developed a Discord server about PhysSec in Eastern Europe. So if you're in the region and you'd like to know more and connect with people, Deviant can possibly introduce you folk if you send an email.
Yeah.
Živele.
Yeah. Živele.
Živele.
Let's get to it.
All right. Now to the questions from NoMan and their circle of security people over there. Number one, Laphroaig 16 or Lagavulin 16. I kind of like this too.
Oh, as you can see, the answer today is neither because it's still pretty early in the day over here. It's not quite lunch yet, so we're only on Prosecco. But this actually had me really curious. If you have access to a bottle of Laphroaig 16, this goes for anyone, not just if you're in Serbia, let me know, because I have never in my life seen that expression. Most of the Laphroaig, so for anyone who doesn't know, I drink a lot of Lagavulin. If I'm going to drink scotch, it's going to be a pretty peated scotch. As my lockpicking lawyer, we're all friends. Like you see us, a lot of us talk about Lagavulin. And the most common Lagavulin release you will see is the 16. They do make some slightly less mature ones that are weird one-offs. I think I have a bottle of 12 over there. There's an 11, which I think is the Ron Swanson edition or some shit.
There's a 10 that we got in some airport duty-free shops.
But for the most part, it's going to be 16, and they make a log 25. It's unobtainium. It's very expensive. It's very good, though. I like it. Laphroaig, which is also an Isla, it's also a peated scotch. Usually Laphroaig will be available in a 10-year. That's the most common expression that they release. They make an 18. It's not common. They make a 15 every now and then on some weird anniversary dates. I think they had their 200-year release of 5 years ago or something, and that was a 15. But for the most part, Laphroaig will be a 10 or a much older expression. I think they make a 20-some-odd thing. All very good. The choice, if you can get it, I get Lagavulin. Yeah, if you're in most places that don't know what that is, I called a liquor store. They're like a villain? And I'm like, oh, God. Then you get Laphroaig because that's easier to find, even though people will easily mispronounce it just as much.
Fair enough. Can you introduce yourself? We all know who you are, but for the sake of a Q&A.
I mean, I think I just did, but okay. Yes, so I am Deviant Olaf. I am a physical security professional. My lovely wife, Tara Wheeler, is here. She is also a security professional. We are known across the internet for various cyber and physical things. Yes, for a variety of shenanigans. My official career is both a consultant, which means sometimes I'm in a boardroom talking to people or a training room, and sometimes it means I am in your server room and you don't know I'm coming because the boss hired me. So yeah, I do physical security operations, be they training and awareness and site surveys, or we conduct physical adversarial emulation by breaking into places if we've been hired to do so.
Well, you're sort of leading into the question number 3, which is, can you tell us what is your job exactly? I want to know this too. If you can't, at least what it's about. Yeah.
So it's a funny back formation that, so my company, one of my companies, I have a few businesses that I'm a member of now, but my main company is the Core Group. Core being C-O-R-E, right? And so our official full long name is the Consulting, Operations, Research, and Engineering Group, Core. There's your C-O-R-E, right? But it's really neat because you can say, oh, I'm so-and-so from the Core Group. This is when we were really a small company. Before we existed doing a lot of consulting business, Bobak just had the name. And he had a lot of connections in the industry, and he could just kind of call up suppliers and be like, hey, Barrett Brockage, I noticed, your catalog has this new JPX 25. It's Bobak from the Core Group. And if you don't get like the mid-level, oh, let me talk to someone in Jim in sales. Oh, Bobak from the core group, that could be anyone. That could be a 10,000 person company. So the core group is a great name, albeit generic. But the full name, consulting, operations, research, and engineering, it's sort of like we've shoehorned all of our services into those headers. So consulting is like we come to you and we're coming. We're training you, we're advising you, we're doing a site assessment. Operations, our ops division, is when we go on site and not everyone knows we're coming. We're either doing a red team security adversarial emulation, or we have people that do close protection EP work. We have a lot of like spooky door kickery stuff we do. That's the ops division. And then research and engineering is when we're in the office, but stuff comes to us. So like research is if this thing exists and you're like, does this thing suck? You send it to us and we'll break it. If you're considering building a thing, you're like, hey, we don't want to suck. And you send us like a prototype. That's the engineering division. We'll help you make it. So yeah, break it and make it versus, be on site and we're going to be there, be on site and you don't know we're going to be there. It's a lot of different hats that we all get to wear. It's a small company. We're a boutique firm.
Fair enough. So next question, number 4. What made you learn and do physical security?
The cheeky answer, which I always give in interviews, right, is I had some of the right friends and some of the wrong friends. And like, it's a fun answer, but it's also kind of true. I grew up following most of the rules, but not a lot of the rules at the same time. Like I grew up trying to break rules and go to places I wasn't supposed to be and get into buildings I wasn't supposed to be inside of. And when you're a teenager, you're kind of like poking around abandoned properties. And as you get older, that leads into the hacker mentality of like, just because I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do A, B, and C, and 1, 2, 3, and Thursday eggplant artichoke. Like I'm going to do all these different things that the system wasn't designed for. So yeah, that's how did I get to be this? By having a healthy skepticism and also trying to rein it in and focus myself on achieving objectives. There are plenty of really smart hackers out there that are just brainy geniuses, but they don't really want to make a business, or even if they want to make a business, they can't because they have no focus at all. At the end of the day, people only care about what value you provide to them. So I'm very lucky. I kind of straddle the fence.
It's a great series of questions because they lead one into the next.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, how long did it take you to be where you are now?
I mean, how old am I today? Like 42, right? So I'm something in my 40s. But meaningfully, my career is a decade or more long at this point. Does that mean I've been getting better at what I am all those years? Not exactly. It just means I've never been standing still. Plenty of things, and God, you would probably agree with me here. Mm-hmm. At least half of what you're going to learn, you will never use. It's almost like that schoolyard, like, oh, why does my teacher make me learn? When am I ever going to use this in the real world? A lot of
quadratic equation.
It's not that you're going to use that in the real world, but learning how to learn, learning how to unpack a problem matters. So a lot of the stuff I've learned in all my years, I've never used, but I learned how to approach problems just by trying a lot of new shit.
So speaking of trying a lot of new shit, number 6, what set of skills does one need for the job you have?
It's a broad question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, we'll get, and I think there's other questions about getting a job, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In an interview, someone might, because need, like in the field, you'd be like, well, I'd love to like know everything. Well, that's if you're a one-man band, which no one is. You have a team of people, right? So you want a team of people with a bunch of diverse skills that can approach a problem. And that's why all of us at the company are really different people from different backgrounds. In an interview, or just trying to get in the industry, it's good to demonstrate some kind of applied competence. If you can demonstrate, I am able to pick these locks and do these things. If you can demonstrate, I know what this Metasploit module is, and here's how I pack a payload. Just being able to demonstrate competency, even if it's something that's never going to be used on that job, what you're demonstrating really to someone else is, I know how to learn. I know how to learn and apply my knowledge.
Absolutely. So, speaking of learning and applying your physical knowledge, what is the best way for someone to start learning about physical security?
Yeah. And there's a question later about like books, and I didn't know how to answer that question. If I believe it's still in there, I might have eliminated it. But it's how does one learn, right?
Hmm.
It's a mix of structured / official learning and a lot of self-directed abstract learning. Um, you can like let's just make it small, like lock picking, right? Or even let's make it a professional spin. If we were to say locksmithing, you can learn by like getting a bunch of locks and learning how to pick them, take them apart, service them, rebuild them, just get exposure to a lot of weird systems. You'll notice if you watch like Lockpicking Lawyer, Bosnian Bill, another friend of ours, right? Like a lot of their videos, the cool part isn't, hey, I picked this lock. The cool part is when they take the lock apart and they dump the pins and or the mechanisms and discs and they explain how they work. So you look at that person, if you're going to get a job as a locksmith, the locksmith doesn't necessarily say, well, yeah, you can open doors, because a lot of locksmiths will tell you opening doors is not a lot of what they do. A lot of what they do is fixing things that are wrong. So if you understand how a system works, if you understand how to fix a lock that's broken, or if your master locksmith were to say, here, what is this lock? And you might be able to say, well, I've never seen this brand before. I don't know what this mechanism is, but do you mind if I like take it apart? It might break a little bit. And you take it apart, you lose. You're like, oh, wait, okay, there's ball bearings. We'll get back to that. And you're like, okay. So you got there's a slider mechanism, and I'm gonna guess if you have the key, there's probably some passive detent cuts on the side. That's probably what those ball bearings were. I'll be more careful next time. That locksmith is going to be like, oh, all right. So you've seen a variety of mechanisms. You've never seen this, but you're applying your knowledge and you're making a picture as to what this was. If I show you the manual, maybe we can learn it together. That's a person who's going to look at you and say, oh, all right, they're not full of crap. They've seen some things, and they are willing to speak to the level of their knowledge, make a few educated guesses, and then say, this is the level of my knowledge. Where can I go from here? And you could do that with literally network pen testing. You could, if they show, here's a box. What's vulnerable? And you all right, you nmap it, you poke around at it. You could say, well, I'm fingerprinting these. I would normally try this. If I ran into these obstacles, I would stop or reassess. And I think this is what's going on. How much am I saying is right? And a lot of times bosses don't need you to be perfect. They need you to not be incompetent. And as long as you're not a fraud and incompetent, you can be like, here's what's going on. The boss is like, yeah, that's what's going on. You've solved, you're halfway there. Here's what we would normally do. And they're already talking with you because they're like, all right, this is a person I can work with this person.
Solve 90% of the problem already just by knowing what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know how to get there, just knowing what you're looking for. So, and that's actually solving 90% of the problem is interesting because this question number 8 is a great one. What's the one thing you must know if you want to learn physical security?
So many people get hung up on little things. The best lock, the best access control credential. And none of those technologies exist in isolation. Understand how systems work, the overall architecture, how security works in layers, how you're protecting assets at the end of the day. You're not protecting this one door right here. You're protecting assets inside of a series of barriers and detection mechanisms. People love to become hyper-focused on one technology, and they get so good at it. They're the world's expert in this one obscure kind of lock or credential. Or like a safe cracker. A safe cracker could be the best safe cracker. But at the end of the day, the client is like, well, that's one little piece of my equation, sure. And I'm glad that you've shown me you could maybe manipulate my safe. But there's 18 security layers before anyone gets there. And we have a guard who comes around every 10 minutes. So you were there for an hour and a half. That's not an issue. So people lose focus and they lose sight of the fact that security is an architecture. It is a whole framework. And never getting too caught up in your one narrow area of focus, that's what's really helpful.
So, knowing all of that, question number 9, how does one become a physical penetration tester professionally?
It's not easy. It's a question I get a lot, and I often point people. I have a blog post. I'll link it down in the doobly-doo. It's sort of how to find your path in this career, which is mostly the answer is I can't tell you everyone's path. I can tell you what my path was. And I talk about my path into this career. It has a lot to do with being humble at a lot of the time and being adventurous just some of the time when you take the risks you can take. A lot of people don't like to be told, because it's a very, like, we're literally, it's a weekday and we're sitting in our gorgeous wingback chairs drinking our bubbles. Like, we are privileged people, right? We have some discretionary income. Telling someone, oh, just go to this university or go get this training course, that could be thousands of dollars. And it's not the solution that everyone has. If you just have some resources, I'm not going to bow at the altar of certificates, right? But that's a big step. Having certs and having completed any kind of training programs, again, it's not that you're going to use all that knowledge. It's that you are demonstrating to a potential institution that will hire you, oh, this person knows how to sit the fuck still for a week and work on one thing and complete that thing. Most of the time, your certificate, it might as well just say, I can sit the fuck still and do what you ask me. That's what a cert is about.
Even if what you're being asked to do is do things like memorize how far away from the nearest exit a fire extinguisher is supposed to be placed.
Yeah.
It's knowledge that in a data center might be incredibly crucial, but for 99.999% of the rest of us in information security on the network side of things, we don't need to know where the fire extinguisher is located.
Exactly.
But we have to memorize it for one certification, and that's the CISSP, which is the one everybody pretty much gets at a certain point in their career in information security on the technical side. So yeah.
So that's a big thing.
Still.
Getting certs helps. Getting official training helps. Now, are there avenues for people who don't have the same financial resources? Yes. Many times they are, again, a type of privilege where if you control a lot of your time, if you don't have like a family and kids at home that you're trying to support, maybe you can reach out to an institution and say, Rob is a great example of this. Robert, he's in our company and he does a lot of martial arts. He's our main expert in combative tactics, right? When he was young, he reached out to various martial arts schools and dojos and just said, I will come in, I will sleep on the floor for all 4 days of class. I will sweep, I will wash the windows, I will wash the G's and do laundry. I just want to learn. Do you have any discounts? And that he would get some types of training for less than book price. But he was able to do that because he was a young guy. He didn't have a family. He didn't have a dog at home at the time, I think. But that got him a foot in the door. And you're not just getting the discount, you're getting this bonding experience with the instructors. Now, can everyone do what Rob did? Like, no. Again, like some people just have a day job. That sucks. When you're jammed up, when you have I am working every hour of the day and I don't have any free time at night, then I don't know what to tell you. YouTube exists, man. YouTube University is a thing. And not just YouTube. A lot of university, like talk about Harvard for us. Harvard X. Do they have anything that touches on cybersecurity at all and so forth?
They do. I actually went and got their executive cybersecurity certification, and it's a period of time where it's very much like what we described before, which is that you need to just demonstrate that you can sit still and execute on knowledge for a full case study, basically, of how to repair an incident that had occurred, a data breach, then go forward with that incident. So the nature of what happens in a certificate like that or in a process of learning, I actually get this question a lot, especially from women who are primary caregivers. Or anyone who is a caregiver primarily for another person of any, whether it's children, whether it's parents. They say, I can't put together enough time to study, to drop into a flow state. And I say that the breakpoint for people who are learning in a certification like the Harvard X certification, like any cert you might want to get, or any process of learning, and you can find 10-minute YouTube videos to teach you one skill at a time. I use the Pomodoro technique, which is 25 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 25 minutes. If you can put together even 3 of those segments of time a week, you can progress your career. And the key part for certifications and for additional training is, remember, you're not competing against the vast number of professionals in your field. You are maybe competing against the 3 to 4 people who are going to go for the next job you're going to go for. And if you can be just 10% past them in the skills that you have a massive leg up on the amount of information that's needed for your next job. You're not competing against everyone. You're just competing against the 3 or 4 people who are making it past the resume and interview round to the final cut to that decision. And if you have 10% more on your resume than they do, from 2 years maybe of an hour every Saturday learning skills that you can get for free on YouTube, you're going to win. That's as good as it gets. Honestly, if you're a woman who is massively overburdened with caregiving, I can speak to some of it, but not all of it. And I believe me, have sympathy for it. If you can get just that far, and I'll help too, it's not just Steve, I will help too. A lot of people on the internet will help you on this one. Just get that far, and then you win over the 3 people trying for the next job that you're looking for. Those are the only people you're competing with. That's it.
And unique to this audience as well, if you are from a region of the world where you know other languages, being able to just say, oh, I was raised in this country, okay, I know these languages, that's fine. But as you have recently done with Tara, very modest, she speaks a lot of languages, but she is starting to actually get official exam certification. There are different levels that are issued by different societies, right? But if very different societies in different countries actually have the framework. But the idea of A1, B1, A2, B2.
So you're from Europe. This is Serbia. So you're going to be familiar with the Common European Language Framework for self, right? A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. A1 is you can say hello and probably find the bathroom. A2 is you can buy a bus ticket. B1 is you can basically carry on a conversation and not get completely lost. B2 is you can argue about politics. C1 is you can get into university, and C1 is you can get into university. C2 is you can argue with your spouse while getting into university and get a doctorate in it, right? Yeah. But if you get to the point where you're at B1, you can live there, right? B1, B2, you can function in that society.
So if you have, again, because it's not free, the exam costs money, but if you speak Serbian, if you speak, maybe you speak Croatian, maybe you speak Russian, maybe you speak Romanian, maybe you speak some other languages in Europe because you've traveled to Germany or France.
Northern Greek, Macedonian variations, Croatian.
Just take the exam and you're like, I am B1 certified in these languages, I'm A2 certified in these. Having that on a resume, especially if you're interviewing with Western companies, American companies, that is, nobody here has that on their resume. And that can apply. That can be an amazing thing that it makes you look different. It makes you look like someone who didn't just, oh, I can speak these things, but you've proven your competency.
They're not that expensive too. You can find those exams, relatively speaking, not expensive, but you can find those exams for under $70 or $80 USD in a lot of locations. Those options are out there for you, and it will really make you stand out. So stepping away from languages for a second, what are some other ways that we can get some information about physical security? What are books that you recommend people read on physical security?
This is going to be the funniest answer because as a guy who has written 2 books, I almost don't recommend them anymore because books get outdated faster than you'd expect, right? I like to think that what I put in the books is still valid, but it's like you can get the content from my books in YouTube videos from lectures I've given, and it's better, in my opinion. Now this is like a rabbit hole, right? Like going down the rabbit hole of how many con talks are out there. There's tons, and not all of them are great, and not all of them are produced well, and they're blurry slides and bad people who aren't good speakers. And again, like if you're not English as a first language, watching a speaker might not be as easy as reading the book and being able to leaf back and forth in the book. Maybe if I come up with some really good resources book-wise, I'll put them in the link below, but almost everything is either hands-on training or online training or online video learning. In my opinion, I think that's better. Because at the end of the day, training, again, you wind up, even if it's not an official cert, you can at least say, I've taken this course. People put training classes on their resume, even if they don't have a cert.
And on their LinkedIn, which will get you some notice on that. There are ways to
Yeah.
get that verified too. And your LinkedIn is where a recruiter is going to find you with that certification. And with your cert number, that matters more than your resume, frankly.
Yeah, no one puts books on their resume.
Right. Okay, so now that we've got all the resume tips in there, number 11, what are some good tips for doing physical security or for people who are interested in it? Don't break the law.
Yeah, I mean, don't break the law. You know, sometimes you can get arrested without breaking the law. We have friends, the coal fire story, if you saw that, right? Like Gary and Justin, they're our friends as well. It's a small world, physical security. They did nothing wrong, and they still wound up in jail for a day. Thank God that's all handled. One of your best tips, right, is remember you're delivering value to the client. The value is not, look at me, I'm in the thing, look at a selfie, I'm in the server room. I mean, when we're young, that's what we do. We take like thumbs up.
Or when you're dating your wife.
Yeah. But as you understand, like, again, I'm going to give a lot of credit to my business partner, Bobak. Bobak described it almost in the sense of a fashion show. He's like, when a runway model, I don't think he said runway model, but like when a runway model walks the runway, their face is very stoic. The outfit is what's on display. They are not on display. They look gorgeous. They're models. They know they're gorgeous. They don't have to look more gorgeous than they are. The outfit is what's on display. When you demonstrate impact, when you get into a secured area, when you show that a system is exploitable, the client doesn't care how cool you are. The client just cares that it happened. So always package your deliverable in a very neutral context. As Bobak said, let the vuln is what's on display. The vulnerability is it's the vuln's time to shine. Don't don't walk through that door and put your sunglasses on and slick your hair back and like throw, thumbs up at the camera. So yeah, and it's many times your audience that you're delivering this information to will be resistant. Many times your point of contact is like thrilled that you found this, but they then go into a business meeting with executives that have hesitancy over these topics. So delivering something in a very neutral, professional voice, packaged in a way that says, under these dates when I was present, these were the conditions and this is what I discovered. It was demonstrated that X, Y, and Z. It could be assumed that A, B, and C, but I did not prove A, B, and C. And you're giving people this snapshot of what happened and a path forward if they choose it. But also you're limiting this. You don't know if they have like bank robbers out to get them. You don't know if nation state actors are part of their threat model. So if you say, well, international spies would use this to steal all your money, they'd be like, we sell cardboard boxes. We don't care about spies, Like you just say, an adversary could come into the building through this demonstrated vector and could cause damage of X, Y, and Z. And you're showing yourself, like, if there's a sensitive system, you can have a photo of yourself with your hand on it. Look, I'm touching it. That doesn't mean you don't pull levers. You don't be like, look at all the mayhem. You are delivering something in a neutral way, much in the same way that if you get a financial advisor or if you go to a doctor, the doctor doesn't say, you're going to die at 65 and be fat and ugly and you're going to lose a limb. They're going to be like, well, you have these pre-existing conditions and we can demonstrate your glucose level is this, your lipids are this. In many cases, that can lead to these outcomes. We recommend these interventions, but this is what you are now. Where do you want to go? You are a doctor in a way, just not one with a medical degree.
The difference, of course, being that, you're as an offensive security, as a physical pen tester, you're a doctor, and as somebody who's often inside the companies, I tend to call myself a janitor. We're the cleanup crew a lot of the time, being like, oh, that caulk is messed up on that bathtub right there. You can have a leak right there pretty soon.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's not always glorious, I think. All right. So number 12, one of the users asked this specific question. Can you recommend some good electronic door lock kits to test on?
It's interesting, right? So when you say electronic door lock kits, a lot of them are standalone single unit, right? Like, here is a unit that bolts onto one door, not an enterprise security solution, but a standalone unit. So many of those are terrible. A lot of them are made by fly-by-night companies that don't exist for very long. If you wanted to, here's a good middle of the road. I'll give you a brand name, Enforcer. Enforcer, you sometimes see it rebadged, IEI and other brands, but Enforcer makes standalone solenoid locks and electronic locks and little keypads, and they kind of do some procs and other things. Check out Enforcer and other sort of single door solutions that aren't complete bottom of the barrel terrible solutions. Frankly, I think one or two of those have even shown up in Lockpicking Lawyers videos. There's a reason for that, because they're not complete crap.
Fair enough. So, can you explain some differences between USA and European physical security on a practical level?
Yeah. European security is much better. From a just neutral standpoint, European security, all the way to door frame construction is stronger. Doors are heavier. Locking mechanisms are better. And it's a little sad there's a history, there's a cultural reason for this, and that is the U.S. has never been occupied. Many nations in Europe have experienced true world wars. They've experienced occupying forces, where in the U.S., people, right or wrong, tend to think, oh, there's a problem, I will call the police. And the police will come and help me. Well, many people in Europe have lived under regimes where the police are the ones trying to get in the door, and they are not helping you. It's like living in the inner city in America, right? Where the state is not the source of your security, it is the source of your threat. And for that reason, doors and locks and everything are much more robust in Europe. It's just a quirk of cultural history.
Well, that's depressing. Moving on to question number 14.
I want another drink before we move on, just because of that.
You can tell it's my glass. It's got lipstick on it.
Could be my glass. Just not during the daytime.
Daytime?
Salud.
Sun's over the yard arm. There we are.
All right.
Okay, fair enough. Question number 14. Is there any course, training, or certification that you recommend for people who want to do physical security?
Super self-serving answer. Another one of my firms is Red Team Alliance. We are a group of industry professionals. We've come together in the physical security world because there is no good certification, or there wasn't. There is now. Red Team Alliance, you'll find us online, redteamalliance.com, right? We are putting out training courses. We are putting them out in our facilities. We have facilities in the U.S. We put them out online, participate, and work your way towards a practical demonstration of competency, because that's what we think is lacking in this space. A CERT exam should involve demonstrated applied knowledge. Come find us online. We'll tell you more about it there.
Okay, question number 15. Do you look at physical security as a science, like law or math, or as something practical? I'm going to guess sort of like a vocational bit of training. And how should people that are starting to learn physical security look at it? Like science or more like vocational training?
I will honestly, I love to give these in-between answers and stuff, and very ponderous answers and philosophical answers. I don't have one for this one. It is an applied science. It is a practical field. Your value is 100% what you can deliver as value to another person. Like in the fields of chemistry, right? Chemistry, very close to physics. You can just be a person in a lab, synthesizing new elements, and how do these elements, valence levels and electrons and what, that's just theoretical chemistry, sure. Applied chemistry is we have this piece of metal and we need to etch with an acid through the metal to cut it. What acid is strong enough to do that? That's in the real world. Someone is that's great that you wrote a research paper. I'm building a building. I need to fuse these bolts together in a way that they won't come apart under certain thermal load and stress load, like engineering, chemical engineering, applied science. And I'm not poo-pooing pure theoretical research. That's great. That's
Good.
how we advance as a society, right? But that's not what physical security. Physical security is an applied field, and it is a practical field.
Sort of like aviation engineering. You can understand the principle of a carb and a venturi decreasing and then increasing air pressure, but if you can't tune the carb and fix the engine, it's not much good.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so number 16. To you, what's more important? Having a lot of the right certifications in education or knowing the right people? We all know that the world is a world where if you don't have these certifications and knowledge, it's problematic for you in your job field. But it's also important to know the right people at the right time. Who would you rather hire? Person A with 4 or 5 certs, but you don't know whether or not they like their work or how passionate they are about it. Or person B that you know in person who doesn't have any certificates, but you know how much passion and knowledge and skills they have for the job.
Hire attitude, train skills. As a company owner, that is a mantra, right? That doesn't mean this person's lovely. I like being around them, and they take me out, parasailing, but I don't know if they're competent at all. That doesn't mean that skills are nothing, but knowing someone in person gets people more jobs than so much else. Being able to connect with others, even if it's literally just connect, like Discord, connecting on a Discord, connecting on Twitter, connecting on any kind of, I don't even use LinkedIn. You use LinkedIn a ton.
Oh, back off here. Back off a little bit.
You know people on LinkedIn at least.
I do, and
you can use it to verify if someone's full of shit.
Exactly, and that's what I use it for.
I'm going to give you 2 fake hypothetical emails, because this is a type of email I get a lot. Hey, Deviant, I've been watching your talks, and I read your book, and I really love what you do. Physical security is amazing. I've wanted to get into this field. I've been picking locks for a while. I watch you and Lockpicking Lawyer and Lock Noob and Bosnian Bill, and I'm even learning from a talk Babak gave about access control. Does the core group ever have any openings? Do you think, et cetera, et cetera? I'd love to work even as an intern. Everyone loves somebody an intern, blah, blah, et cetera. Sincerely, hope to hear from you. That's one email. And that's great. And we keep those emails on file. If you attach a resume, that helps even more. If you spell everything right, even better. Or, this is going to sound like the same email. Hey, Deviant, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have reached, if you're reading this email. I've been learning about this field. I saw you on the Modern Rogue, and I watch your YouTube videos. And I don't know if you remember, but Joe McRae, I took a training course with him, and I did this one job once. I was looking at Black Hills information. John's such a cool guy. I don't know if he's going to hire me, but I met him at this one event, at a SANS event. And I don't know if you are ever hiring. Does Core Group take any interns? Already, I've stopped reading the email because I'm texting John and Joe. I haven't talked to Joe McRae in 10 fucking years, but he's got game and he's a good dude. And if someone's like, I'm like, hey Joe, do you remember this kid? I think he's from Canada. And Joe will be like, oh yeah, he took a class with me 5 years ago. Yeah, he was a nice guy. He showed up on time every day. He seemed to learn. That's not a huge endorsement, right? But because Joe knew him, and Joe's like, yeah, 5 years ago, I remember him. He showed up. He had his shit together. That's huge. And that instantly makes me want to ping that guy back and be like, hey, we don't have opportunities right now, but Joe said you're actually really cool. We're going to be running this training. Where are you again? Well, we're going to be in Toronto. Do you want to have lunch with us if we're in town? I'm going to say that to that person. And I'm not disparaging the first person, but all I got is just another sheet of paper from that first person. That's great that you're developing your paper, but being able to feel that human connection, I know this person, I once worked with this person. I took a class with this person that you haven't seen in years, but he said you're cool and to reach out. That's how shit gets done in the world.
So, question number 17. To you, what is more important today, digital or physical security? We all know both are important, but which?
Digital.
Would you care to expand upon that?
Yeah. No one gives a shit about physical.
Tell me
I
more.
mean, let's not say digital or physical.
Okay.
Let's say electronic or mechanical?
Mm.
Now, maybe this is not, I'm going to answer both questions. In terms of electronic versus mechanical elements to physical security, everyone thinks electronic. Everyone is moving to electronic. They don't see the locks as like a real vector of attack. And even if someone could pick all the locks out there, you should, and even low-level facilities tend to be doing electronic monitoring now. You have alarms, you have door contact sensors or door position switches, right? Like, even if I can manipulate a lock or, and get the door open, it should register an alert. Something electronic should be happening. Does that mean that every property does this? No, it does not. But, yeah, in the physical, if you want to get into physical security, you do have to understand electronic access controls and attacking them. You have to understand something about alarm systems and attacking them. Now, when it comes to digital security, when we mean, I'm going to say like network security versus physical security, those are very different domains. And you're not seeing a lot of people who try to specialize in both. It's great if you know both, and a handful of absolute ninja firm, like some of
That's
Chris and
hard.
Eric's people at Laphroaig, right?
Good, yeah.
They're going to have a few people, and those two guys included,
Yeah.
who know both. That's not common. It's not common to be someone who knows a lot of each. But it's great if you can have a foot in each world. If you're a physical security person, take the most intro to Metasploit class, like just to know it. Just take something in that realm so you can speak to it a little bit. Understand what happens if you plug a Pony Express or a Dropbox or something into you broke in the building. Now, if you plug a Pony Express in, do you even know if it's like connecting? Do you know if you're NAT restricted? Do you know if you're being, blocked by a firewall?
Pwn plug.
Yeah.
You were listening to my thing. No, it's Pwn plug. Yeah.
Pony Express is the company.
Sells it. It's
yes.
a Pwn plug. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. They're expensive.
Yeah. They are. That's why people roll their own. They all call them Dropboxes or headless computers or drone computers.
Lord. Yeah.
There's a lot of terms for these devices, right? But knowing, is this device actually connecting out to my command and control server? Like, understand that. And if it's not, knowing like a couple things you can try. Find the nearest conference room with a VoIP phone. Learn how to like figure out the MAC address and then try to spoof the MAC address and put your device in that room. Learning those couple of things so the whole mission isn't compromised because like, I can't get around a firewall. Like learning just enough so that the actual network team that you have, who's probably remote, can do their job better and you're supporting them, that's great. And just like if a network person or even a social engineering person, let's call, a lot of people sell on-site engagements, but they're really social engineering, right? You're kind of bluffing your way in, you're tailgating. But if that person who's tailgating in knows just enough lock and physical security things that they can get one room further, that's great. That's kind of a good metric. Have your specialization and then branch out so you can get one step further. That's a big value add to your team.
It's a good point. In fact, one of the biggest impressions I ever made was when I saw the data center for an entire company inside a chain link gated location inside one of the buildings that I used to work in, and the physical security on that chain link fence meant you could just reach through and tap the internal lever to drop and open it up to the entire the server, and the Active Directory for the entire company was sitting 10 feet away from the door that I could walk right through. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't been a physical security dilettante. Let's put it that way. So it lets you see things a little bit differently, and just sometimes that seeing that makes people understand how insecure they actually are. Putting something inside a padlock and a chain link fence is nothing if you are somebody who knows how to do something as simple as a shim with a beer can to walk into a data center.
She ain't lying.
Question number 18. Do you think that people are not going for careers in physical security because most of the population thinks it's easy and it shouldn't be a separate job from other jobs?
I think most people aren't going for careers in this industry because it's still not a well-known industry. And it's still a small industry. There's a possibility that if everyone who ever reached out to me and said, hey, I want to get a job in this field, if they all try to get jobs in this field, I don't know if the field even supports it. Because most of the time, clients aren't always exclusively focused on that kind of testing. Almost all of our testing is in conjunction with network testing. Either network testing that we or our direct immediate partners are doing, or it's sort of a mature security program at the client, and they're adding this on as an additional nice to have. There's a handful of firms who really have physical threats, and they come to us because we're one of the few who can do it. But most of the time, the firms that you see doing a physical assessment, they got either an upsell from a sales division who is selling a network test, or they've been doing network testing for so long that they're like, all right, we're kind of ready now. Yeah, it's not a big field to this day.
Fair enough. Sort of like how the number of people who want to be awesome James Bond spies is larger than the population of people who either could be or should be James Bond like spies.
The should be is the important part.
Yeah.
How much anyone could be. You can do anything if you work hard enough, right? But there's only so many that are needed. It's almost like race car drivers.
There you go.
Like if you drive a car real fast, people think that's cool. Learn how to do it without dying takes skill. But like anyone can do it eventually. But there's only so many jobs. There's only so many races in the world. There's only so many race car drivers you can be.
That's fair enough. Yeah. All right. Question number 19. Do you think that it is worthwhile to pursue a career?
Ironically, like in both instances, like you can always rob banks. Like, someone got to drive the getaway car, I guess. Sorry.
It's fair.
By the way, robbing banks is a shit fucking job. It's a
yeah.
The lamb.
I don't want to sound like I know, but
no, the lamb technique is dead. That era is over. It's a fool's fucking game. Yeah. No one gets rich robbing banks.
Yeah.
It's
definitely
no one ever does.
Definitely engage in digital theft if you're going to go. I'm like I don't want to advocate this, but seriously, why would you ever rob a bank when you?
Let's get more of those lines.
Okay. No, I'm saying right now that I'm not a bad person, but if I was going to be a bad person, I'd be engaging in cross-border digital theft right now because you make bank on it and you never get caught.
And if we look at crime today, the most profitable crime is cross-border digital theft. Like
And you know what's even more fun?
That's what we both pursue all the time.
What's even more fun than being a digital thief is catching the sons of bitches that do it. That's even more fun. That's why we do what we do, because it is way more fun to track those son of bitches down and find them and show what they did step by step by step. Like forensics looks boring until you're like, I just caught a thief. I am a badass. That's the greatest feeling on earth. And they're going to steal what? $10,000 a scam in a month or something like that. Let's be honest. I know some people that have transitioned from the dark to the light side of the force, and they're like, wow, I would have been doing legal stuff way earlier if I knew how much better it paid. All I'm saying is stick to the light side here.
Could you imagine a future Q&A like this with Evil Twin, Sherry, and Jake all talking, just talking forensics?
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap. Forensics, ransomware, Bitcoin. Oh my God. It would be a whole, like that, another future topic. We'll do it. No, man, we're going to talk, and you're going to get questions from the Discord. This is an idea. It's an idea for the future.
We're riffing so hard, I don't even have the question.
It's all right.
Yes. I'm smiling.
She has to scowl.
I have to scowl if I'm not like angry at my phone and like deeply intense. Siri doesn't recognize me if I'm smiling. If I'm hanging out with him and he's telling jokes, I'm like ah, and then Siri's like, "Who are you? Where's the angst?"
All right. Okay. What do we
got? So we got question number 20. What are you currently working on besides that Prosecco?
A couple of things. So a lot of firearm stuff, and that's just personal projects. You'll see sometimes I will throw my firearm stuff on my YouTube. A lot of times, a lot of folk, depends on what you're into. Like I have friends, Karl and Ian, InRange TV, Forgotten Weapons. They're buddies of mine. I hang out with them. My content sometimes shows up, in their channels. The latest one, the one I'm really enjoying building, and I'm engraving it. It's going to be a whole series. You'll see that on InRange. That'll be on Karl's channel. I'll drop a link in the doobly-doo. As far as germane to this topic area, what I'm interested has been in getting much better at electronic access controls, and we can talk about that some more in a bit. But really, even small, I talked about small electronic systems, like I said, Enforcer. So a big one in the US is Door King. Like, I have Door King units down in the basement because I've been eBaying them, and I'm just going to take them apart and try different things and just poke. It's been a long time since I've just been like poke, break, poke at a thing. I haven't had the free time to, but I'm, a freaking global pandemic because my country has bad leadership. So yeah, I will be tinkering with some Door King stuff. I'll be dorking around, as previous DEF CON talk used to call it. Yeah, there's that. There's always something. We all, as the older you get, this is kind of an interesting thing. Would you say a useful skill is finish the project you're on or give it away?
Oh. Well, do you want
I'm at like so many people we know have like 7 open projects, and they've done good shit, but for some reason they're not releasing it. And if you're the wrong kind of person, that person winds up being bitter. When someone else, when Julia gives a DEF CON talk at DEF CON 31 years from now, and you're like, doesn't Julia know how long I've been working on the thing?
I've seen that attitude.
And you're like, fucker, you've been in your basement, you haven't told anyone, and it's been in a box.
Oh,
shit or get off the pot.
Okay.
Shit or get off the pot.
I've seen that. So, like, if you're there's 2 different responses I give to that. There's kind of the practical, immediate response, which is I started this project like 2 years ago called the Nerdlist to do kind of basic hash cracking that's based around just nerd passwords, right? Like correct horse battery staple from XKCD, or C-Tech astronomy from Sneakers, or hack the planet. Any of the nerd passwords you can think of.
Hunter 2.
Hunter 2, so great. Somebody committed 8 asterisks.
I love it.
It was the Hunter 2.
Yeah,
okay,
I love it.
So there was that one. There's passwords from Star Trek, Star Wars, anything you can imagine. Alohomora, if you're a Harry Potter fan, right? Like, open. So when I started this project, I got it off the ground. I brought some folks into it, and now kind of like in, I think actually Saturday of this week, we're doing the final bit of it where I'm releasing the last prizes, and we're making it. I've got 2 people that we've brought aboard to accept pull requests, because it's a great project, but if it just sits with me, it just sits there. It doesn't do anything. I want it to live. I want other people to be part of it. And I want to stop being able to take credit for it, because that means it's not on my to-do list anymore. Question number 22. What is your biggest success in your career?
Oh my God. The people who were with me on it, I will just call it that data center job. We've done a fucking million data centers, right? But the people, this is a job, this was years ago. Was this like 3 years ago? 4?
2.
It was a while. So we
2.5.
We're in a Signal chat, right? Yeah. Like, because it wasn't just my team. We brought in
it was cool.
Other allied, we have a lot of strategic alliances with some people who are specialists in something. Because again, if you're a specialist in this, you also know a couple of things where like, I can use you. You're not going to be completely incompetent once I get you in the fence line, and then you can do your thing. So our small team grew with some additional talent, and it was amazing. It was the most amazing experience. And we have this Signal chat where it was multi-day, multi-week, frankly, job. It was a big job, a lot of recon, like some of the guys were just army crawling through open fields, under fences, to get close enough to this building, close enough being a few hundred yards away. And they're like, Drew and Robert are doing like telephoto, and they're mapping out what RF sensors they're using, what fence sensors, what cameras they're using, and they crawled back at night. And like, then we're building cover stories, we're building fake, we're breaching the fence. It was the best job I'd ever done, but not because it was thrilling. Like, I've done thrilling jobs, right? But we had such a mix of talent, and we to this day still have that Signal chat for no reason other than to like share industry stories and share memes and someone's giving a talk at this event and everyone else tunes in, and we tell our friends, hey, so-and-so is giving a talk, like, oh, this person spun up a new company, like, let's make sure, are they going to do a thing? What's their new tool? Oh yeah, who are you working for now? And that was it was this magic moment that existed in time, and it was just an absolute win. It was everything we say a job should be. A job, you like, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, right?
Or SOW.
Right. This was a job that literally followed the formula of you do passive recon, then you do light touch, distance, active recon, then you do really egregious recon, like driving right up to the vehicle checkpoint. Like, we had a cover story, someone drove up to the VCP, and they had cameras embedded in the vehicle, and they interacted with guards, and they got intel about how the throughput was on the checkpoint. And then we had like a ton of plans for how we're driving back to the airport, constantly burning vehicles, flipping rental cars, so we always had new cars. And eventually we breached the perimeter. We had a good methodology for getting through the vehicle checkpoint. We were also breaching the fence in other ways. And once we were in the building, now we're in the second week, we actually week into the building. We, don't get greedy, which is always what this guy does. Once you're in, you're like, fuck yeah! No, Bobbick's like, dude, weaken the security, then step back. And then we're going to come back tomorrow. Like, take the win, take the small win, and build on it, and build on it. And we dissected mechanical locks, and we got into date. Like, it was great. It was wonderful. And by the end, you learn so much about the target, and we're constantly in touch with our client and explaining where we are, and they're having a ball. They're getting good information. And by the end, it was just bananas. It was absolutely bananas. I think Darknet, this is the story I told on Darknet Diaries, because Jack, she had mentioned part of the story, and then they asked me to tell the story when I'll link it down there if I can find the episode. It was wonderful.
Well, there's a cat.
Here
we go.
All right, we got like 2 questions.
Actually, we just have one question left, believe it or not.
One question left.
Where can people find you on the internet?
On that internet, I'm around. My name is hard to spell and pronounce.
Can't avoid him.
Yeah. No one can, if you tell someone, oh, I'm deviant Olaf, and they're like, how do I fucking spell that? Not the way you think. No, so I am on Twitter. It'll be on the screen somewhere. It's going to float right on top of my glass right here. I'm deviant Olaf on Twitter. I am also available via email. Like, that's how NoMan just reached out to me. Like, great. My email's around. I'm not going to link my email, but I'm going to say, if you can't find my email, my website's right down there. Not in my penis area, but my website's in the doobly-doo. You can find me, right? Like, I'm not on LinkedIn.
Darling.
I'm on Instagram, but not for all the, like, I'm a gun guy, but I don't do any gun things really on Instagram.
It's all food.
Yeah, it's mostly food and cats.
Very boring growing things.
Yeah. Not on LinkedIn. I've got all my companies and stuff, like the core group. The core group is at this URL. If you want, like, to pay us money for consulting, do that. Red Team Alliance. Like, if you want training, you want certifications, the Red Team Alliance, we're at this URL. It's also linked below if you like clicking things, right? That works too. We're around, my most popular talk I've ever given, it was at another, John Strand, I've mentioned John, right? Like, it's at his con. Like, search my name, you're going to find me mostly talking at other people's YouTube channels at their cons. But deviating.net, which again, like, linky down below, that's where most of my stuff winds up. It's pretty eclectic. It's a mix of weird things, but it's all there. I'm out there. I can die tomorrow by being hit by a bus or a meteor or liver failure, and I left it all out on the field. All my stuff is there. Pick up the ball and run with it, because I want you to do the next great thing. I'm done, trying to keep every project. I don't own everything. I want to release everything I've got as fast as I can, because I want you to do the next cool thing.